What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Newberg from Knowles 24/7. I normally do a live show right now where I take your guys' questions and answers. And today we're going to switch it up. We're going to do a little something different. I'm going to bring in my coworkers from Knowles 24/7, and we're going to record on the bench. Do any of you guys listen to On the Bench, our Knowles 24/7 podcast? We're going to record that live today. We're doing a mailbag edition, so it's kind of like a Q&A anyway, so we figured we'd just do that today. And then I'll probably be back on later this week to take some more questions. But I'm going to bring in Brendan Sonone and Chris Nee here shortly. And we're going to do the pod live. Hopefully this works. So Brendan, you feel good about that we're going to get this file and I'm going to be able to upload it to iTunes after this?
Oh, hello. I didn't know I was on air. Hi, everyone. Do I feel good about it? No. But it's not going to stop us from trying, Joshua.
That's right.
I'm getting the social going right now so people know to come watch this. This is a blast. It's a lot of fun.
All right, good. Where's Chris Nee?
I don't know. It's 9 a.m. You told me to get here at 9.
Oh, do we have the chat? Is there like a...
There's a chat function on the side. Oh, look at that. There's people talking. Hey, guys. Wow, from YouTube.
It's not coming up. Oh, there you go.
I see it.
All right.
Hello.
Yeah, I know how to do this now. What else we got going on today?
I think we should tell the audience there's a decent chance that Chris doesn't know that this is live yet. So he's just going to come on in. You're going to see him how he normally is. You're going to see him being grumpy and gruff. And yeah, I try to give him a heads up. But I don't know if it got there in time. We'll see.
I don't know about my setup here. I think I'm going to change my video setup.
A video? Yeah, go ahead and mess with stuff while we're live. That's
No, not now. I'm going to change my setup at some point. This is temporary. This is like version 1.0 of my setup here.
Gotcha.
What's up from Chicago? Can't wait to see you and the boys next Sunday. Well, guess what? I'll be in Chicago on Thursday. How's the weather in Chicago? I got to start packing. Pre-market just opened. How you doing, Brendan?
You miss doing our stock show?
I miss reminding you what ACST's still at.
What is ACST still at?
41 cents.
It's a good time to buy.
Remember when I dumped at 58 and told you to get rid of it?
Yeah, but I'm just it's accumulating. It's fine.
How you doing on UAMY?
I don't know. How's that doing too? I've checked out emotionally from it until I start making money again. I see the meme stocks are making a comeback though.
Yeah, I got in on that BBIG squeeze. I got in at $2.37.
All right.
Let's see. It is currently trading at $8.58.
Oh, all right. Attaboy.
Yeah, I'm in at $2.47.
Maker's Markman just said Master Mono wins mullet contest by way of forfeit. I did have the idea to interview every player on the roster and ask who had the better mullet. Josh Griffiths.
Oh, Nee's here.
Or Chris Nee's here. Or Alex Master Mono. And unfortunately that did get solved by default. Good point, Maker's Markman. Hello, Christopher.
Right. Good morning.
I got the all social Joshua.
Penn has just been on a run. Did you ever get in on Penn when I told you to?
I did, and I sold it after making like $5 off of it.
Whew. It's been killing. All right. Back on track.
Chris, how's your stock game going? How's your portfolio?
Diversified and versatile.
And versatile. I like that.
All right.
Okay.
We're all good. I think everything's working the way it should be.
I think so too.
Wow.
Did I didn't tweet that we're live. Let me just
I did.
I know,
From the
I'm-
company account.
All right.
We don't want to put this on my Periscope or anything like that, right?
No.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Let me pull up my docket here. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to On the Bench. I am Josh Newberg. I've got my Knowles 24/7 teammates here with me, Chris Nee and Brendan Sonnone. Welcome. How are you doing, Chris?
Fantastic.
Oh, that's good to hear. Brendan, it's game week. How you feeling?
Good. There's a person on our live stream whose name is FartBaby69, so feeling good.
All right. Well, this is still a podcast for a 90% of those listening, so we're just going to treat it as such. And it is a special day today. It is a mailbag edition.
Mailbag!
You guys love when we do these, and we love answering your questions. In these mailbag questions, they come from our Knowles 24/7 members who submit them the day before on our message board. They submit the questions that they're asking us on our message board the day before. So I say we just get right into it. Are you guys ready for that?
Let's roll.
Let's
It's game
do
week.
this.
Let's do it.
All right. The first question, appropriately enough, comes from Sonnone's Burner. And he asks, how excited are you for the opener?
I'm excited for football and like an actual real season with fans in the stands and all that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also like, I want FSU to be good, but I'm not hinging on them being good for it to be a year that I enjoy. I'm looking forward to being back to football.
And tis the season, right? Like it's going to start getting a little cooler this week in Tallahassee. Lows are going to be in the 60s. I got my sycamore leaves falling, so it feels good. It feels right. Nature's healing, Joshua.
Bishop Sycamore? No, that's
What?
Boy,
What?
was that fun.
you had to watch ESPN yesterday to get that joke. But anyway.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm really excited, and I think I agree with Chris. Like, I'm not excited because I think this is going to be a great football team this year. I'm more excited just because football's coming back. I'd love to follow and kind of see the fruition of the storylines that we've been following through the spring, the quarterback battles, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm just generally excited for Mike Norvell's second year, hopefully a more normal year. Let's move on. That was a great question. Thanks for opening it up, Sonnone's Burner. Jay Funchess wants to know, since we can probably all agree that Virginia Tech was one of the worst home openers ever, what is your favorite memory of a home opener at FSU? Ooh, at FSU. Okay. That changes my answer.
I don't do a ton of research. I want to kind of come in fresh with these, but I did see that one yesterday, and I was thinking about my time covering this program and the home openers they've had. There haven't been really any good home openers. I guess 2013 again, it would have been Nevada, who they would have opened against, and there was a dude with the mullet. Like, that was noteworthy. Charleston Southern in 2016 with Derwin James getting hurt was an awful home opener. 2017
He's
NC
saying
State.
favorite memory. You're talking about torn ACLs.
Oh, that's what I don't have good ones to choose from. I have awful memories. I have NC State spitting on the logo in 2017. There's just not a lot of good memories. There's not a lot of good memories of home openers in my time covering the team. Christopher, save us. I'm spiraling.
I had to double check to make sure it was an opener, and it was. Louisiana Tech 1999. Peter Warwick had the sideline slithering around play. One of the classic plays. Obviously, great season for FSU that year too. So that's the first one that pops into my mind when I thought about it, when I was trying to think of openers. FSU historically has opened with pretty soft home openers over the last 2 decades, or they've opened with a neutral site great game, so on and so forth.
Yeah, mine's more of a more personal memory because I was in school when this happened. But when Florida State and Miami started playing to open the season, that was like mind-blowing to me. I think it was 2004 might have been the first year. So I was like a junior in college that year, I think. And just going into the season to start the year against Miami was crazy. We just started school. I don't even know if school started at that point, but we were playing Miami to open the year.
04 was at Miami for the opener, overtime
05,
game.
yeah.
16-10 game, and 05 was here in Tallahassee.
13-10
against Miami.
What was the rainy game?
05 was 10-7 here in town.
I was in high school and there was a Labor Day game between Miami and FSU, and we were practicing on Labor Day. There was no school that day, and our coach was an FSU fan, Kevin Pettis, Trey Pettis' who was here, his dad. And they let it out of practice like an hour early so we can get home to watch the game. I just remember it being
the
a rainy
game that was in my. I mean, there has been a lot of rainy games. You talking about the one?
Yeah, but it would have been around like 05. It would have been like 05, 06 Labor Day. So
that could have been the Roscoe Parish game, or there was also a monsoon game in Miami as well that FSU played in.
The Roscoe Parish game's 03, right?
Yeah, they would have been a little earlier. Yeah.
All right. Big Drip Noel. Does Cam Mcdonald need to be a difference maker in order for FSU to win this game? What's your prediction for his stat line?
But yes, the answer to that is yes. To help FSU receivers win one-on-ones, the tight end has to make the center of the field a place of focus. And Cam McDonald is hugely important in that regard for FSU.
That being said, what do you think his stat line is?
3 for 40.
So Chris
I'm not expecting a lot.
No, I understand
to be perfectly honest, Cam's had an up and down preseason. There's been days that he's made spectacular catches. He made one in Jacksonville, for example. There was one in the IPF here in the last week or so. But there's also been several days where we weren't real sure if he was even on the field, and he was. So it's one of those things where I'm not banking on him to make this huge leap. I like Cam a lot. I think he has a ton of athletic ability. He is kind of an X factor type guy. But historically, his stats are, pretty mundane.
What was Cam McDonald's story again? I don't remember how he landed here as a recruit.
West Coast Knoll. He was a West Coast Knoll.
Was that the only West Coast Knoll that ended up?
He's the only one who's still here.
Right.
His brother came on as a walk-on.
Right.
Jaden Lars Woodby. Was there at least one more?
Well, they tried. Kayvon Thibodeau was. Yeah,
they did try that one. Trayshawn Harrison back at Oregon State. So, the West Coast Knoll movement did not work out as desired.
I think people want more out of Cam McDonald, but I just don't know, if
Cam's going to be feast or famine, like Chris said. If he's capable of hitting some splash plays downfield because he is so athletic and big and has the big catch radius, like we saw against Georgia Tech last year in the opener. Like, he's capable of making some game-changing plays, but I'm not even convinced it's going to be all Cam. Like, I think we'll see Jordan Wilson a lot and get a pretty prominent role. We may see some of the other tight ends integrated in, but Cam does need to have a good season for FSU's offense, I think, to kind of unleash its full potential, unlock its full potential. He has to be more consistent and just show up more often. It is there. It's capable. He just has to do it more frequently.
It will be interesting to see if going against Notre Dame, who has arguably one of the best tight ends in the country, maybe gets his competitive juices flowing, and that gets him going.
All right, let's move it on. Noel Remorse. No, I'm sorry. Matt and Skeet wants to know, how different do you see the offensive and defensive scheme to be from last year? Personnel on both sides of the ball is different, but coaching is the same.
Well, the defensive scheme, the personnel is going to be different in their usage of a fifth defensive back. And we saw it some last year. They used some nickel formations, especially as the season went on. But I think they want to do that a whole heck of a lot more frequently than they did last year. It's a big reason why they brought in Jamie Robinson, the versatile defensive back, safety, cornerback, nickel hybrid type. From South Carolina, so they can kind of put him in the slot or put him at safety, move him around. I think in general they want to go with more sub packages. They felt like their depth was really kind of hindered last year, whether it was through injury, just attrition, guys not developing. So that's been a huge point of emphasis this offseason. They stockpiled defensive backs, both with transfers and freshmen. Same with defensive end types, three defensive end transfers, I think 3 or 4 newcomers as freshmen as well. So that's all to try to mix and match personnel. So I think we'll see a lot of different formations and personnel packages defensively this year. Offensively, I don't know. What do you think, Chris? I think there'll be some, but I think they like what they did on offense last year, and they're just going to try to build on it and be a little bit more diverse. But I think they're going to keep doing what they did pretty well last year.
Yeah, I think last year they had to kind of use certain plays as crutches because they were incapable of doing certain things. I think playbook-wise, it's a little bit more wide open going into this year. regardless of who ends up being the quarterback, that we see a predominant amount of time because the guy who did play last year has improved. He is more capable and comfortable making certain throws to certain parts of the field that last year just certainly weren't available to him or they weren't willing to try to go to. So I think that adjusts some of what they can do, but I think schematically it's not drastically different. I think it's just a matter of it's a little bit more, there's more variety to it. It's a little bit more.
On offense, I kind of feel like they're just trying to get the personnel in there to finally do what they want to do. Like, why? They're not going to change it.
I think the offense is going to be run first, a lot of screens, and a lot of variety of screens, not one type of screens, not running backs. I'm talking running backs, receivers, tunnels, tight ends, all of it. And then I think there's going to be shot plays. I think there's going to be an effort to take some downfield shots. And last year, FSU was dreadful at winning one-on-ones. The big difference for FSU this year is if they find a way to win one-on-ones, obviously they hope a guy like Andrew Parchment or Malik McLean or somebody of that sort allows them to do that with more capability than they had a season ago.
And Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham are really good at dialing up shot plays. You have to hit them, but they showed last year that is a strength of theirs. They do a good job with that. So that'll be a big part to beating Notre Dame is hitting on those.
No Remorse wants to know, do you think the coaching staff is disappointed with how the QB situation played out during fall camp?
No. I think they're ecstatic about Jordan Travis taking a next step forward. I think part of the reason they brought Mackenzie Milton in was to have a veteran leader in that room, but also a guy to push the other guys. And I think it had a fantastic effect on Jordan Travis. Milton, obviously, was only around so much to the degree it's been spoken about, I guess is the best way I can say that. I think they would have preferred to have both guys available every single moment, every single rep, competing every single thing, but that's not the reality of the situation. I don't think they're disappointed by it. I think they're very pleased with what they got out of Travis. I think they also know what they have in Milton, despite the fact that there's a caveat of him coming off of such a catastrophic injury.
Right. Okay. Sam Knight wants to know which player will be the most improved from prior seasons. If you have multiple, which player do you think will be most improved?
Right now, I'm bullish on Akeem Dent. We'll see if that translates over to gameplay, but he has looked really good in practice, very engaged. And this is someone who was at safety as a freshman. We all thought should be playing cornerback, played a little bit of cornerback at the end of the year. It looked good. Moved to cornerback full-time last season. Was not confident. I don't believe he was totally healthy. He was one of the worst cover corners in the country by many different metrics. He really struggled. And his confidence seemed to kind of be waning a little bit. They move him back to safety this offseason. So far in camp, and Chris can attest to this, he's been revelatory. Like, he's been energetic. He's been engaged. He's been impactful, coming down, stopping the run, playing in space. He's caught the ball. He's had interceptions. Again, that has to translate over to the field, right, on game days. But if you want to talk about buying stock in someone who was at a pretty all-time low last year, he's someone that I think can really be a high-end improved player on defense.
Hopefully.
I'd probably take Dennis Briggs. He went from being a guy who was dependable depth to being maybe one of the most key pieces of the defensive line this coming season. I think he is very much in the mold of what they want an interior defensive lineman to be, which Robert Cooper, in my opinion, is not. They like Coop. Coop's going to play. Coop's going to have a factor in this team, but I think Dennis Briggs is more what they want to roll out there consistently on the interior, and the impact he had throughout the preseason, which, given it was against FSU's O-line, was outstanding, and it was consistent, and it was day in, day out. And Briggs gave us a little taste of it last year, but he's had this whole offseason being with the team, prep. I feel like he's taken a massive step forward.
He looks, and Chris and I saw him in the offseason at one of the June camps, and he looked like a different player. Just the muscle, the definition compared to where he was last year when he had opted out and wasn't around the team working out. Like, it is night and day.
And he's always worked out on his own. Even when he opted out and he was doing what he was doing, he was still working out on his own. So he's always had a good work ethic. But the fact that he's been fully part of it for a year, for 8 months straight, he's been every bit of FSU football. I think that's allowed him to take the leap.
All right. I'll go. Yeah, enough of where you guys think he's most improved. I'm going to go with Sean Corbin. Everything that we've heard is, he's got that bounce back in his step. That'll be important because I don't think Lawrence Toafili is still the wear and tear guy. I still think he's in there just to spell, and FSU needs that workhorse back. That I think they were hoping Sean Corbin was that last year, and he just wasn't able to be. I think it'll make the whole offense hum a little bit better if Corbin is that guy. All right. Sam Knight has two more. Which assistant coach or shadow staff member is the most underrated in terms of impact on the team? Ooh, as a recruiter, talent, developer, or combo of both?
I mean, I think
now
Tony
this is
Tokarz
underrated. Hold on. Now this is underrated. The amount that we've hyped Bartow, there's just no way he can be underrated.
We can't say he's underrated at this point.
Bartow's insanely important, as is Kenyatta, in getting kids on.
But they get their
helping
props, so they're not underrated.
Right.
I think Tony Tokarz, because he's wholeheartedly a guy that could easily be on the field, and he's a very, very good coach. And they have several of those on this staff.
Tony has kind of been elevated once.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Tony's
the Miami
guy I immediately think of. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's someone who FSU thinks has a bright future, whether it's in this program or if he moves on elsewhere, which Mike Norvell assistants seem to do fairly frequently. He's someone who's going to be a Power 5 level assistant coach
off-field
sooner
coaching,
rather than later.
Off-field coaching staffs used to be made up of coaches that were just kind of out of the business, and then they're waiting for their time to get back on the field. And now you're seeing guys like Orion Bartow, like a Kenyatta Watson. Like these guys are, they're not going to be coaches. They're not going to be on-field coaches. Mm-hmm. They're just lifelong like recruiters. They're just back office jobs.
Relationship
builders. It's supremely diverse, the staff, right? Because you have those guys. You have the young guys like Tokarz, Cooper Williams,
Austin Tucker.
You've seen some already move on. Sabbath Joseph, who just moved on.
Clinton McMillan is with the Tennessee Titans now and highly thought of too. Yes, Sabbath Joseph on defensive side of the ball, Trey Bell. Like there's a lot of guys.
Then you have Randy Shannon. You have Shane Burnham.
Right.
You have guys who are definitely on-field coaches, So, it's
I think
interesting mix.
Randy Shannon to Norvell is kind of like Chris Thompson, but in the different sense where all he does is he's sort of a set of eyes, an extra set of eyes, seeing how practice is going, doing little. I think he's been a huge help in that regard because he's a guy that is a veteran voice, and he's very, very comfortable at saying what he needs to say when he needs to say it, but he's also just an observer so much of the time.
There will be cool moments in practice where he goes over to Norvell, stands by him, and talks for 3 or 4 minutes, just as Norvell's watching 11-on-11, and just kind of explain to him what he's seeing. It's a good working dynamic that Randy and Norvell have. So
all right,
that's cool.
Then to answer this question, the answer has to be Randy Shannon. I made jokes about him when he got here. No, the answer is Randy Shannon. All right,
Josh owes me an apology because I was all in on the Randy Shannon hire at the time.
Will you be partnering with any FSU players through NIL like some other media outlets? No, not directly.
At this point, we don't have any plans to.
No.
We'll see what comes along.
Yeah, it may end up like that. Our hand might be forced if everyone's doing it, but I'd prefer not to pay for interviews if we can help it and be more organic and whatnot. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'll have something coming out soon, but it's not with Knowles 24/7, and it's not necessarily like a typical NIL deal. But
you're not paying for it.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's mutually beneficial.
Correct. It's not. Yeah, it's not an NIL deal per se, but that'll come out maybe later today or tomorrow. Brooklyn Knoll 8. Who's our best wide receiver on September 5th? Who do you think our best wide receiver will be at the end of the season?
So I want to say Keyshawn Helton for one of those two answers because he has been so good. I don't know if it's going to be all season or September 5th. Man, I'm going to go Keyshawn for September 5th. I think he's just been super dialed in. He's been super mature this entire offseason, and he looks – I can't describe until you guys see it in person on Sunday. He just looks like a different player than last year when he had the clunky knee brace and wasn't as explosive or twitchy as he was pre-injury. You watch him move and just run a couple patterns. It is extremely different. So I think Keyshawn is going to be ready to embrace the moment on Sunday. All season, I'll still go with Andrew Parchment. I have a little bit of trepidation and thinking he's someone who's going to be super reliable all season until I actually see it with my own two eyes. But the upside that he has, the way he catches the ball, the way he moves with his quick feet, the bounciness, he has the ability to put up the biggest numbers on the roster this year. So I'll go with him, although I don't feel super confident in that answer right now.
to expound a little bit more on the Parchment part, watching Parchment through the preseason leads me to believe he's a guy that's going to have 2 to 3 games where he just puts up asinine great stats. He's also going to have 2 to 3 games where he just kind of disappears. That's just the way it's felt watching him in the preseason. Maybe he becomes more consistent as they get in the games. Maybe some of it's idle hand syndrome. That happens with guys. I think Malik McClain's kind of the wild card. It's asking a lot for a freshman to be that guy, but I think Malik's got some of the tools to handle it. I think he's got some maturity to handle it, and he's super talented. I think Malik McClain is the most talented wide receiver on FSU's roster.
Okay. I'll go Helton McClain. I think that's a good combo. One Claremont Noel wants to know, what do you think the weakest link on the offense is this season?
The offensive line. The depth is still not very good. Tackle is still some guys who are a bit fish out of water types for tackles, but it's what they've got to do for at least another season. If the primary 5 can stay together, they've got a shot. They have some ability up there. But if they get to number 7 or 8, it starts getting real interesting real fast. And I don't think there's a way to fix it if they get to that point. I think it's just one of those where you keep rotating, try to keep their bodies upright, try to keep their minds right, and just go and do the best you can.
And pray.
Pray.
Yeah, I think the offensive line on the front 5 is probably a step or 2 better than last year. But like you said, I mean, there's really no answers for some of these guys if they go down. Like you would hope that somebody can fill in admirably, but it's going to change the offense. Like it's such a step down that it's going to make a major impact.
Center Maurice Smith, feel very good about him, but baby on snapping issues, been true his whole career.
Changes the whole offense.
And if those two, if something were to happen to both of them, I don't know what they do for snapping the ball. Like it falls off a cliff. It goes from Maurice, like if he's like about like an 80 grade as a snapper, then Bayon's like a 65, and then after that it gets to like 20%.
Bring in the long snapper. Let
probably
him
be DLT.
Yeah, they may do some of the cross training. Yeah.
Devontae could play any of the 5 spots. I think he'll probably end up being a guard to start the year, but it wouldn't shock me if he's a tackle either. I'm very interested where he does fall on the depth chart when they release it.
We're not sure of what the starting 5 is yet, and we're in game week here.
Scott and Washington have both worked a lot at tackle spots.
I think so. Yeah, I think that makes sense. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, they like what Dante Lucas has done this preseason. Dylan Gibbons has been very steady. Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Can't afford injuries, though.
Good question. Woodbridge Knoll, he's here to ask, with time loss to workload management and contact tracing, do you feel there was enough physically during camp for the players to be sharp and tackle well week 1?
And some of that too is the rules have changed for preseason camp. You can't do Oklahoma drills. There's limit of
I was going to say the rules have changed. So it's like both teams have to observe these same rules. Yes, there's a little bit of workload management and contact tracing, but do you think, like, for the most part, I think Notre Dame and FSU are probably hitting the same amount?
It is a TBD, like, how's this team going to handle physicality? Because we don't know. You're not able to see that in practice at a very consistent basis.
Right, but you can say that for the same thing with
Notre Dame too, right? I just think you go off
all
of
their new players.
Yeah, I think you just go off of previous history for Notre Dame and what the program has been the last 5 years or so, and would assume that's better. But yeah, that's an assumption. We don't know that. So yeah, it's a good question. We just don't know the answer to it.
I'm very concerned about that, to be perfectly honest, going into the first game. The first time Kyron Williams comes flying through a hole, I'm very interested in how FSU meets him, gang tackle to the ball type of scenario. We'll see. And, Notre Dame's defensive line and front 7 is going to challenge FSU's offensive line a great deal. And as we've talked about, the rules don't really allow for you to do it as much, but Notre Dame's not exactly the perfect opponent to open up against when you're not sure about the physicality of a football program. Because historically, especially under Brian Kelly over the last decade, they are generally a pretty physical bunch.
Savvy's Knoll is feeling mighty optimistic this morning. He said, if we pull off the dub, how many commitments do we get in the following days?
All of
them. All of them. I would say the 2022 guys aren't going to just commit just because FSU won a game. Maybe there's some 2023 guys that are emotional and, pull the trigger in the heat of the moment. But I think the 2022 guys that FSU is really targeting, kind of have their dates picked out, set. I mean, a win would certainly maybe solidify some of these guys or land some in the future, but I don't know if we get like any in the following days. What do you think, Chris?
I think there would be some emotional decisions made, more so at 23 than 22, but I think there could be one or two at 22. It would not shock me. If that place is rocking, FSU wins, they look good doing it.
They're in the locker room after the game.
They've been selling a bill of goods. I think they've been realistic with that bill of goods, but a win on Sunday puts them ahead of the calendar that I think most of us expect, including those selling a bill of goods. So
it puts them on that best case path for everything that we talked about all summer. Okay. Rude Boy 80. How do you feel about the program versus prior years? I think it depends on which prior year you're talking about. Prior years, like in the last 2 or 3 years, I feel real good. Prior years, like 10 years ago,
I think I feel as good about FSU football as I have since 2016, maybe. If I had to pick a year.
2015, 2016.
But on the converse of that, I feel like if this year goes poorly, and it could because that's a very tough schedule, and I still don't think it's a very talented football team, it could become a very deep and tough hole to climb out of. And that's super concerning. It's kind of a knife's edge, razor's edge scenario for them. The guy running it's organized. He knows what the hell he's trying to accomplish. He knows what he's doing. The guys he has on the roster, he's doing his best with them, and he is developing many of them in a positive, progressive manner along with his staff. We saw that in preseason. That's probably one of my most positive storylines of the preseason is that we saw development within the roster. But at the same time, they're not super talented, and they desperately need a very, very good class to step on campus, followed by hopefully another very, very good class. And that's how you get back in the discussion of competing for your half of the conference, your division, and so on and so forth. If it all goes bad this year, I don't know if the class they're assembling now happens, and that puts them in another hole. And it's kind of a weird position to be in. But
that was the same conundrum Willie Taggart was in too. At the end was just
but he was an unorganized mess,
right?
And the staff,
people could see it.
Practice was a freaking joke. I mean, I don't have those concerns that I had under Willie. My concern more so now is that the program's in a really bad spot, and it needs some stabilization. And if it doesn't happen this year, it kind of concerns me. When will it happen?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I feel like the leadership is there. I feel like the systems and everything's in place behind the scenes, but the players aren't there. Like when Jimbo started turning the corner after his second year, the players were there mainly because he was there background recruiting for 3 years prior to 2010. So it was like a little bit more of a setup. But by Jimbo's second year, the system was in place, the leadership was in place, but also the players were there. And I don't think that's the only thing we're missing here at FSU, the players.
Yeah, there's not enough ability to say, get him the hell off the field, give me the next guy. They don't have that right now. The guys who are going to be on the field is literally who they have to depend upon for the most part.
Okay. Sorry. Jbone546, does Damori Tate see any significant playing time? And how prepared for anger should I be with regards to field goal misses this season?
So
Damori Tate and a field goal. That's one sentence, 2 different players. Answer it, Chris.
Chris,
Brendan.
I was going to let Brendan take it. He was ready to run.
No, you got the Damori Tate. Brendan or Chris has the field goal kicking.
All right. I think Damori Tate, one, he's around. He looks the part like when you first see him. He is still very raw, which was the case when he came into Tallahassee, and he hasn't been able to practice full go. Remember, he's coming off of an injury from the spring. So he missed a lot of time, and he just needs a lot of reps, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He's someone who's still very raw that needs a lot of refining in how he plays the football with his technique and coverage.
Is he getting lost?
No, it's not even lost. It's just like playing the ball when it's there and –
No, I mean lost in the
shuffle in the depth chart.
Like we need to have some patience with him.
Well, yeah, there needs to be patience. I mean, I do think that we will see Amari Cooper, Hunter Washington, and Kevin Knowles for sure before we see him. So he is kind of getting jumped, but I also think that, like Chris said, it's a different type of player with Damori Tate in a different type of situation. I'm not alarmed at this point, like that his development is way off track. he's delayed based on
But
his
he came
circumstances.
in as such a better prospect than the guys
Right.
that you named.
But he also came in as really
Better
raw and
athlete.
unrefined. Yeah. And so without having legitimate reps, in-game reps and practice time in the spring, he is behind. He's someone I think like you could see it's realistic to say mid-season, he turns a corner, light bulb kind of clicks for him. So right now, I don't expect him to be a contributor early on the season. I think we kind of reevaluate at midway point and see where he's at and if he's getting better.
Brownlee, Dotson, Jay, I'm forgetting Jones,
Kevin
who's been out,
Knowles, a healthy
Knowles.
Jerry and Jones.
Those are your top 5 corners.
Mm-hmm.
And Knowles is probably a nickel type, and one of those other ones could even slide over.
And Jamie Robinson's a nickel type too, who's going to play some of that.
So, Tate's not needed right now. Tate needs to learn to play the position and nuances of it, get rep after rep after rep, get a little burn here and there in games, have game film to look at. He's a down-the-road guy. Hopefully he's worth something for them next season after. Those are more crucial times for him. I don't think Amari has much of an impact on this year's team personally. Field goal kicking, it's been good in camp.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'll believe it when it happens in games. Last year it's sort of painful at times. I'm not sure which one of those two has won the kicking competition. I feel like they knew that after scrimmage number 2 a week ago, but they didn't really shed any clues on it. They still mixed it up with who kicked first, I believe, throughout practice this past week. Fitz and Grotehouse have both been fairly consistent. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think they both have an impact on special teams as kickoff specialists and stuff like that too. But yeah, I'm not sure which one will kick, but it's been good in the preseason. Hopefully that continues.
J-Rod 31, what are the 3 biggest keys to upsetting Notre Dame?
Score more points.
Run the ball, stop the run, no turnovers.
Create turnovers.
Capitalize on chunk plays. Like when they dial something up, you got to hit it. You can't squander the stuff that Norvell and Kenny dial up because there's only going to be so many of those. You got to capitalize on them and throw haymakers to win this game.
The interesting thing with Notre Dame is their best receivers are tight end Michael Mayer. And obviously FSU, one of their greatest weaknesses, or at least perceived weaknesses on defense, is their linebackers. So are you going to make up for the tight end with a safety? If you do that, then you're leaving a corner at some point on an island. The receivers are kind of a mixed bag. I think it was Javon McKinley last year was their leading receiver. He's gone. Avery Davis, who's a veteran receiver, he's back. Then they got a guy like Braden Lindsay, who didn't do a ton last year, but they think pretty highly of, has a lot of ability. And then Kevin Austin, who I think's been hurt most of his career in Notre Dame. He's a guy that they've always been very high on. I think they're hoping he breaks out. That receiver core for Notre Dame is a bit of a, not unknown, but a group that's kind of a believe it when you see it. But I think there's a lot of hype and hope for that group. So, I worry about the tight end opening things up on the outside for Notre Dame. And I know Kyron Williams is going to be able to run it. So,
all right. Agent Coke, he has a question here. Which offensive skill player needs to make the leap from good to great for FSU to overachieve this year, overachieving being 7+ wins?
Cam McDonald.
Sean Corbin, Josh mentioned
Lawrence
earlier.
Toafili would be next for me.
I think Sean.
Well, I think Sean's Mr. Consistent, but Toafili can be a home run hitter, an electric playmaker, a guy that kind of changes the dynamics of that running game.
I get the feeling like they're just going to keep going to Sean and they trust him because he is super consistent, but his numbers last year were fine. I think he averaged like high end of 4 yards per carry. If he can break off a couple more explosive plays and show a little more burst, now he's 1.5 years, 2 years removed from the injury instead of just a year. I think that changes the complexion of what you can do regularly as well. So there's a couple guys that clearly need to step up a little bit for the offense to take the next step.
Another reason I go with LT is you can also use him essentially as a slot
receiver.
They're willing to move him out.
Yeah. He's another X factor for this team.
Sunday Gold, would you rather have average O-line play or average linebacker play?
I'll take average O-line play.
I was going to say, have we seen average O-line play?
College football is an offense game right now. And I think FSU's offense is capable if they're able to protect the passer and give themselves some time. And they're also able to line up and run the ball and control the clock to some degree.
Chris, what unit do you think right now, linebacker, offensive line, is closer to being average?
I am entirely unwilling to buy in on the linebackers. So I would have to probably go with O-line.
I'd even say the O-line's deeper than the linebacker group.
Neither is particularly real deep.
I would say the amount of guys that you're willing to rotate in is probably deeper at offensive line than it is at linebacker.
To some degree, they're going to try to hide their linebackers by only having 2 on the field a lot of the time. So you got Gainer, you got Dix, you got Lundy, you've got Deloach, who did have a good preseason. Those are 4 guys that are kind of immediately up. You got a guy like Green McKnight, a guy like Robinson who can slide down there and help to some degree. Green McKnight's more living that life than Robinson is. So Fuller referenced it a week ago. 1, 2, 3 linebackers. There'll be different looks with that. So I think to some degree you're less dependent on the linebackers, and you can try to hide them, especially with going with more nickel.
This is a stupid question. Is Jan McCluster still on the team?
Yes.
Yeah. Non-factor.
Okay.
I mean, special teams probably, maybe here and there, but
right. Okay. FSU MD. How has the preseason gone for Amari Gainer? What is a realistic expectation for him? Can he be an all ACC type of player if it all comes together? And I'm assuming he's talking about this year. I think we all think he can be that in his career.
Yeah, he can be. And he's flashed at times this preseason. Like there are times where he takes over a series at a time where he'll make his presence felt both in the run game, as a blitzer, even shown like the ability to kind of peel off and disrupt the passing game and get an interception, get his hand on the ball too. So like it's all there. He's playing a different position than he did last year. Last year was the stud where he was out in space. This year it's more will linebacker where he's playing closer to the line of scrimmage. And I think that's going to allow him to be more engaged as a blitzer, as just a straightforward run stopper. So I think that's going to play to his strengths ultimately as he gets used to that role. He's at a decent camp. I don't know if he's dominated the way I would have hoped for him to, but I think he's also going to be schemed up and put in good position to where the all ACC tag and the way he's going to compile stats is going to be possible. I don't know, likely, but possible given his skill set and the way he'll be used.
I feel like with Gainer, we sometimes overthink him a little bit too much. In games, he does usually a generally good job of per play getting to the ball. And I feel like that's going to continue. So if the per play rate is high, the tackle rate should be pretty high. So therefore, he could contend for ACC honors because most of that's voted on by stats more than anything. But preseason with him been kind of, I think Sonone summed it up pretty good. There's times where he does kind of just wash out an entire series. But there's also other times where it's sort of not a whole lot of activity there. The linebackers is such a lot of uncomfortableness for me with the linebacker group. I want to see it in games.
Chris's demeanor has changed in the last minute or two since discussing the linebackers. It has noticeably changed.
I can't buy on the linebackers. I'm incapable.
All right. On that note, then, MJ Seminoles 2 has a question. Is there a single person on this roster that can cover Michael Mayer? And for those that don't know who Michael Mayer is, he's a tight end at Notre Dame. He was a 5-star prospect, maybe the number 1 tight end in the country in 2020. But I do know he was a 5-star. He's an incredible athlete and mismatch problem.
Kirk Herbstreit, I think, just named him the best tight end in the country for this coming season.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
So who do you put on him?
Because if there's anything FSU has done well the last few years, it's cover tight ends with linebackers. Yes.
I feel like you got to cheat with a safety or a nickel, and you lay him on. So either like a Kevin Knowles, but there's a height advantage situation there. Same with Jamie Robinson, height advantage situation to Michael Mayer.
Brendan Gant, maybe.
Yeah, Gant would scare the hell out of me though. He's such a aggressive downhill guy that he thinks the pass is coming here and he bites on it. Well, bye. You're chasing the back 2 numbers on the jersey the whole way down the field.
Cole Cochran in the comment section says put Travis J on him. Maybe move him around. Yeah,
but that's taking the guy off the outside island and moving him in. But
you
it
got
is their
Miko
best
Dotson,
receiver. So.
Right. And you got Miko Dotson, who you feel comfortable with playing a couple of different roles if you have to. Yeah, I will say this. There are options this year for the defensive staff to get creative. I don't think that's something that they weren't living in that world last year. They didn't have the options, especially late in the season when injuries and attrition really caught up to them. They will have options to be creative.
So the question was, it wasn't who is going to cover Michael Mayer. MJ Seminoles wanted to know, is there a single person on this roster that can cover?
I think our answer says we don't feel great about that. Probably not.
You need to bother him at the line of scrimmage. You need to
we
chip
should
him,
mention
bang him, delay him off the line, make life difficult for him in the first 2 seconds of a play. Maybe not allowing him to get to the spot he needs to get to, and those things, kind of eliminating some of the opportunities for him. I think that's ultra important as much as actually being able to effectively cover him down the field.
if a linebacker is going to be able to cover him real quick, we have to mention his name. Kalen DeLoach is the one who's going to have a chance at it. I don't know if we'll have to see, obviously, if that happens. But if there is going to be a linebacker you can leave him one-on-one with, it's going to be Kalen based on what he's shown this preseason.
Can we quit talking about linebackers so I can get comfortable again?
Yes, here we go. NYC Null 92 wants to know, by the end of the year, will Corey Wren and Amari Tate both be getting significant snaps and contributing?
Corey Wren will play some special teams.
Corey's probably still another year away.
The question was significant snaps and contributing.
Potentially for Corey, if he is returning the ball, if he's a kickoff returner by the end of the year.
I don't think that's what he means by significant.
Well,
If
then
he's
no.
offensive, he's got to catch
Probably
it
not.
better down the middle of the field. His speed is elite. That is his strength. He has to be able to get to a spot and catch it over the shoulder.
And he has gotten
did a
better.
better job catching it.
Yeah.
But when he went vertical and he had to play it over the shoulder, it's still a struggle for him. And that's one of those things. If you're taking a shot play, you need to hit the shot. Do you feel confident he's going to hit it for you? I wouldn't right now.
And we already talked about Damori.
Wheel route, baby.
We covered Damori. Okay, go Knowles 2011. So from reading the articles, it looks like DBs are developing and our DL will be good. Well, he wants to know, will this be enough to mask our lingering deficiencies at linebacker?
Chris says, move it on.
Sorry, earmuffs,
on.
Chris. Earmuffs. All right. Onward, that's an appropriate name for the next user. Onward wants to know, staying away from specifics. Oh, this is going to go to Brendan. Are the players not practicing due to COVID protocol, positive test, or contact tracing out because FSU is under the 85% threshold and therefore must continue the intrusive testing procedure?
Intrusive. So the difference is testing once a week versus 3 times a week. I don't know if FSU's hit 85% yet. I don't think so. If they have, I haven't heard it. But yeah, there are some guys who are out with contact tracing or actual COVID, and that's been the case. And I'm not going to get into specifics. I'm not going to get into amount of time. I'm not going to get into the players. But there's been, I'll say, at least one, more than one, and less than 20, less than 10. How about that? More than one, less than 10 that have been impacted at some extent or another by contact tracing or COVID. Okay. All right. Am I getting myself in trouble? Oh, God.
I just threw it to you. I don't want you to handle it.
Why would you do that to me?
Because it's a hot potato. Here, take it. Sylvester Stat wants to know. Okay. Let's just say you saw this stat line from Jordan Travis. Do you think FSU beats Notre Dame if Travis runs for 115 yards and throws for 230?
Sure.
If you just saw that stat line, is that a win or a loss for FSU?
I feel really good about that.
I mean, that's 345 yards of offense generated by one player, and you hope your rest of your rushing attack generates 100. So that's, almost 450 yards of offense. Notre Dame, yeah, I'd take that against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense is damn capable. 6 of their 8 up front are back on their front 4. Their linebacker group is good. Kyle Hamilton's one of the best safeties in the country. That's a damn good defense. If you're posting 450 yards on them, yeah.
I like the 115 on the ground because the 230 through the air could be deceptive. Like if FSU's down 21-0 in the first quarter and he throws for 230, what does it matter? But the 115 yards on the ground leads me to believe he's moving the chains. He's making some plays happen. Like things are going in the right direction.
He's probably playing the entire game and is healthy, not getting dinged up. If you could guarantee me of that stat line going into the game, not a yard more, not a yard less, I would take that for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, FSU Surfer. What QB do you think gives FSU the best chance for Notre Dame? Brian Kelly saw Travis last year, so wouldn't he still be able to surprise them? All right. So ideally, who do you think gives FSU the best chance at quarterback?
I'm going down with ship. I'm sticking with Milton.
As of today, I'm going to say Jordan Travis.
Yes, I'm so glad we differed on that.
Chuba Purdy, Tate Rodemaker, Gino English,
box checkers quarterback.
I'm staying the course with Milton, but I think if you roll him out there and it's not looking right or he can't get out of the pocket, then I think it's time to make the switch and put Jordan Travis in immediately.
I think there's a very high probability that we see both quarterbacks play.
Oh yeah,
in the game this week and in multiple games. Like I think we're going to see them. People are really transfixed on who's going to start. I think we got to adjust. Like, there's probably going to be a pretty good chance that two quarterbacks will play frequently this season.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw both quarterbacks take a snap by the end of the first quarter. Is that crazy? Like, I mean, I really don't think. I think if because here's just my thinking. I think based on what I know and everything, 8 days out from the game, 7 days out from the game, I think Mackenzie Milton gets the start, but I have enough. There's some concern there, and I think they're going to spell him with Jordan Travis probably early on to try to spark something.
You did a much better job working around that than I did with the hot potato and the COVID. That's why you're pro and good on camera, Joshua. When do we think someone in the YouTube chat asked, when do we think Norvell will announce it? And they said Friday. I don't think we're going to get a quarterback announced. Do you guys?
I've been leaning towards no announcement since the start of camp. When there was no announcement, actually after the end of spring, I was like, oh, this could go down to the wire.
Do it to me. Put them both on the field at the same time to start the game. Just do it to me.
Two starters. Get Chuba Purdy in there too. Trigun. Let's go.
Jordan Travis is a wide receiver now?
All right, Makers, Marksman. What percentage of – okay, we already read that one. Let's move into some this is good. Is this – we'll go to Bayer Sinone after this. Is this the most important season opener for FSU ever? How does it compare to that Virginia Tech game with Willie?
Ooh, I mean, let's put this into the stage. Chris talked about earlier this being on a razor's edge, this program. They're living and dying off of this season and recruiting momentum and just trying to scrap and claw to 6 wins, correct? Everyone agree with that premise?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So Notre Dame, I don't think you can get to 6 wins by losing it to Notre Dame. But do you know what a win against Notre Dame would do for feel good, for recruiting, for momentum of actually winning a season opener for the first time since 2016?
Oh, I think a win could be the most important season opener for FSU ever. A loss, though, is it really is it the most devastating?
Well, it depends on what the loss does. Is this the Boise Super Bowl where the team just packs it in and they're done for the rest of the year? Is this VTech where the balloon gets popped immediately and all the air is out by week 3? You can't live with that. They can't have that this year. This year is going to be a year where you got to fight and you got to battle, and it's a week in, week out thing. And when you take an L, you move on, you get better, you figure out how you can improve as a team. You go and get some W's. You got to stack a couple W's at some point. That's the important thing for them. This year is about the year, and I hope for the first time in several years that this football team is able to live that week-to-week life where next week isn't dependent on what happened last week.
Okay.
I'm so anxious for the start of the game. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to enjoy the crowd and everything just based on the Virginia Tech PTSD. Like, I don't know at what point I feel like comfortable and enjoying like the actual full atmosphere of the game. But
can we get to this Bayer Sinone, please?
Hell yeah.
This is what I'm here for. This is the Bayer Sinone section of the mailbag. I extracted all of the Bayer Sinone questions and put them into one category. So here we go. Jamrock Knoll. Bayer Sinone. FSU keeps this close into the fourth quarter within 7.5 at the end. Could be looking for some gambling advice here.
I will Sinone that they will never be within 7.5 points. At any course.
Well, they will be when they kick off.
No, you can't score half a point in football. But I know what he's getting at. I will buy that they will be competitive into the fourth quarter.
I'll buy that they'll be competitive going into fourth quarter. I'll also know that they keep it within 7.5 in the end.
All right, also known both. Moving on, Gasu wants to know Bayer Sinone. Any of these?
That was Georgia Southern. GASOU.
It could be. Any of these names cut you off one more time. On the list are primed to have a year worthy of leaving for the NFL draft. All right, tell me if Bayer Sinone, any of these names. Sean Corbin, Cam McDonald, Robert Cooper, Fabian Lovett, Dennis Briggs, Amari Gaynor, Travis J.
Oh, I'll buy. Wait, how am I answering this? I don't know, really. Do any of these names? Great job extracting, Josh.
Any of these names on the list are primed to have a year worthy of leaving for the NFL draft?
There's a couple. I think Fabian Lovett has the upside to it, and just like his size, his stature is going to give him a chance too. Dennis Briggs. Maybe. I mean, he's been great in preseason camp, as Chris has already talked about. So, like, if he carries it over and produces, like, the NFL is all about quick interior pass rushing defensive tackles. He could fit that bill. Travis J, even though he wouldn't have a huge body of work, and this is just year 3 for him, would pass the eye test if he had a big season. would be someone who I think would have a chance.
I think really
at
only
going
Fabian
early.
Lovett.
Okay.
Of that
Yeah,
group.
I mean, and then there's some guys who,
in terms of after this season, like,
yeah, I guess so. More than likely.
Realistically, probably.
I have to
Fabian Lovett,
Sonone for right now because we need film on a lot of those guys. Gainer's actually got probably the most film of any guy you actually just rolled off. Him or Lovett, I guess, would have the most film. I also known that from now. I think some of them certainly have a shot. Coop's obviously got a lot of film too.
And some of those guys like are what, Coop's of going into year 4 or 5? Year 4?
I believe this is year 4.
And he's a redshirt junior based on the COVID year last year. And so same thing with Gainer too then. So like a lot of these guys are going to be done like 4 years and they may just say, hey, I just want to go and try to go to the NFL too.
Right.
Like, they may not want to play football for another season. So that's also possible in that factor or in that equation too.
Yeah, that's true. NRG, Knoll, Bayer Sonone, Akeem Dent starts more than 6 games this year.
Bye.
Oh, I got to answer it too.
Yeah.
You drafted him.
Yeah, that doesn't mean much.
It means everything to me.
I'll go Sonone.
Yeah, I'll Sonone it as well. NRG, Knoll, Bayer Sonone. Our defense will be top 50 this year. I'll Sonone the hell out of that.
I'm Sononing it till we see it. Linebacker is still a major concern for me if you haven't gathered that in the first 56 minutes of this.
Sonone, will you Sonone that so we can move on?
Bye. You guys, oh ye of little faith. They got versatility. They got pieces. They got staff continuity. Top 50 ain't nothing. You can get there easily.
All right.
They
Miami,
also play
Knoll.
some really good teams.
Yeah, did you factor that in?
No, I forgot about that part.
Miami Knoll 69. Bayer Sonone. Kier Thomas over 20 tackles and 3 sacks on the year.
Ooh. If I could split it in half, I'll buy the 20 tackles. I'll Sonone the 3 sacks. I think he's going to be more of a pressure disruptive guy than actually getting to the quarterback. And I think he's only had like his most sacks in a season ever at South Carolina. It was like 3.5. So he will be really good. I just don't think he'll be like a sack artist. But so half a buy, half a Sonone. I'm cheating.
I'll buy it as a solid push because they play Jacksonville State and UMass, and you can get a couple of cheapies there.
Take that, Walt Bell.
Bayer Sonone from Vorblaw. J. Trav is QB for more than 55% of the snaps
Of the season?
Against Notre Dame.
Bye.
I'll Sonone just to mix it up. The quarterback thing's an interesting scenario. Solely based on the preseason, that's a no doubt buy.
All right.
But we're not living solely off the preseason.
I'll buy it. Illinois Knoll. Bayer
I think it's
Sonone.
pronounced Illinois.
Illinois.
Oh.
Is how I would.
We worked through that. Good workshop, guys.
Bayer Sonone. Barring external promotion or hirings, the assistant coaches will be the same this time next year. Will be the same. I'll Sonone that because FSU didn't have any coaching changes this offseason. That would be 2 seasons in a row. While it's not out of the norm to go 2 seasons in a row, this day and age of college football is a little different. So I'm going to Sonone that.
I'm Sononing it because I think this is the first time ever under a Norvell team in his coaching career where it's the exact same staff 2 years in a row. So I don't expect that to be 2 consecutive years.
Sonone in it for the reasons you guys said. Highly unlikely that you keep everyone together for 2 years, more than 2 years in a row.
Bayer Sonone.
Hopefully it's for good reasons, though. They get hired away.
Right. FSU will have more than 2 sellouts at Doak this year. Sonone.
Also known that. I think Notre Dame, they're still not actually in a sellout, but I think they may get there. Miami's obviously a potential one. After that, I think it's kind of tough to find another game on the schedule where it is expected.
Notre Dame's not officially a sellout yet?
Not yet.
I'll Sonone it.
Yeah, I'm going to Sonone it. FSU, or Bayer Sonone, FSU will finish with more than 3 players on all ACC teams.
Sonone.
First, second, and third team?
Oh.
It says on all. It says all hyphen ACC teams. So I would just go
they're talking just first team. I'm Sononing it. If they're talking the entirety of the list, I'll buy it.
Agreed.
I was reading it
preseason. They had nobody for
first team.
And did you have anyone on there, Chris? I think I had like 2 guys on
I
my
put
preseason.
Gainer on there as my third backer because Peyton Wilson at NC State's a no doubter, and then there's a lot of guys who could be on there second and third. I threw him on there, bit of a homer pick, but I do think statistically he could earn that spot.
I think I did Gainer and Jermaine Johnson were mine.
Yeah, there's a lot of good DNs in the league, but if Johnson is what we think he can be, he'll contend for it.
Bayer-Sinone, Nebraska is a bigger tire fire than FSU was post Boise and Hydration Gate.
Oh God.
I think I'll buy that because the whole pregame was we're going to eliminate mistakes and be better, and then you got dudes slipping at the goal line getting you safeties to kick that thing off. So that fan base is in a bad place right now. They're wishing for the days of Frank Solich and Pelini, and it's just I'll buy it.
Yeah, and I'll buy it too. And there's a lot of it's more political with Nebraska too, like with the extensions they've given to Scott Frost and potentially NCAA stuff. Yeah,
I'm going to Sinone it. I think even at Hydration Gate, there was a large portion of the fan base that was blaming the media for stoking the fire and kind of poking Willie and not being fair. I don't think it was I don't think that the fan base was really fully understood that the wheels had fully come off at that point. And I think it took to the Wake Forest game for fans to fully feel they weren't just messing with my coach. My coach was...
How dare we quote him verbatim on something that he said that pissed off the training staff?
I still think he had a portion of the fan base at that point. I don't think he had lost everybody, whereas Scott Frost, I feel like, has lost everybody.
The other part of that scenario, firing Willie is like firing any normal coach at a school. It's not super difficult. Firing Scott Frost at Nebraska, a little bit more nostalgia involved in that.
Yeah, nostalgia.
I think it's worn off. But
saw how far nostalgia got Greg Fry at FSU.
Not paid. Buffalo.
Greg Fry and Scott Frost aren't exactly on the same level for their two respective schools, though. No offense to Greg.
He wasn't in the Heisman ceremony. All right, Buff Noel wants to know Bayer-Sinone. The year and a half of Willie Taggart was worth losing Karen Key Largo as a fan and message board poster. I'll buy that.
That question's for you, Josh.
I'll buy that. Life has been a breeze since then. Null-blooded 17001 Bayer-Sinone. Do you guys know if the team will have some sort of legacy walk? Oh no, we're out of Bayer-Sinone.
On the legacy walk stuff, they haven't yet unveiled pregame. I think they intended to do something of that sort. I don't know with recent COVID spikes and some concerns over that if they're going to scratch that for now or what they're going to do. Haven't seen specifics. I presume that stuff will be out no later than the end of tomorrow.
Okay.
Tuesday.
All right. We got a couple questions left, 5 questions to go here.
All right. Lightning
Jordan Davis. You guys should do some bets this year with fun punishments. I feel like that's a Brendan Sinone thing.
We do have Subpart F has been saying that FSU is going to win 9 out of 10 games no matter what. He's been pretty consistent on that for about a month now. So I told him if FSU gets 9 wins, he'll get 9 months free of those. And if he loses, I get to pick his avatar for 9 months. So
I was going to say he should overpay us for 9 months.
That'd be free money, I think. I'd be okay with that.
TB Golf 714. How many anxiety attacks will Sinone have before January? Well, how many weeks until then? So you got at least one a week.
If these parents don't stop being mean to me, I will lose it. I will lose my shit.
I'll help Sinone out. I'll walk him through it or tell him to,
Yeah, take a hike.
Butter up, buttercup.
Noel Chris 2020. What's your favorite memory in Doak?
Oh. 96 UF comes to mind immediately for me. Trying to think what else.
I got 2. 2014 against Clemson, the overtime game, the Sean McGuire, I can't believe we got the ball moment. That was just so magical. That was a really great game. It's just crazy that everything around it with Jameis Winston being suspended and even the night before, I was going out to a bar to go meet my now wife. I was going to be our second or third date, and I'm driving. And all of a sudden I got the email from FSU and had to hit a roundabout and went back home for 2 hours to go and get that taken care of, that he got suspended for the full game. But man, my favorite memory of actually being in Doak was the first time I was in Doak. And that was Media Day 2013. I had never been into Doak before. And it was just so cool to see the stadium on the outside looking like this awesome brick castle, and then going inside and seeing the banners and seeing Bobby Bowden Field and just being there, standing there. And I hadn't been yet hired as the beat writer for the Orlando Sentinel at that time, but I was about to be, and just knowing this was going to be my home for at least the next few years, turns out for a long time. That was really cool. And then there was this dude named Jameis Winston running around with with a camera behind him, interviewing other players. And little did we know, I guess, how electric that dude was going to be. That was a really cool memory in hindsight.
Yeah, I think for me, it was probably my first Florida State game. I was a student. It was my freshman year. And that was the last year, I believe, that we had to camp out for tickets. After that, it went online. So I actually camped out. I was like the last class that had to camp out outside the baseball stadium for tickets. And I had just gotten my PlayStation 2. It just came out. And I brought it out there, and like we had a mobile TV in our tent, and we spent the night. So we had to camp out for the tickets. Of course, I think that was like even before the season started, we were doing that. And then obviously the games at the very end. And I went to games that whole season for my freshman year. I went to every home game, but just walking into the stadium for the UF game, it was my first ever time being, not only being a student, but just being in a stadium for a rivalry game like that. And we were in the student section, and we were berating every UF fan that would walk by. And it was just, I was so drunk, but I remember it all. And it was just so intense. And I'll just never forget that feeling of walking into a rivalry game, especially for the first time.
I feel like that needs to be on a t-shirt. I was so drunk, but I remember it all.
I do. I mean, I remember I was very drunk, but I do remember just the intensity of it all. Just standing, not only standing, like we were there well after the game, still standing in the section. It was like it was a whole experience, put it that way.
And I still come back to 96.
20 years ago.
Well, I'm talking about 25 years ago. I was a young pup, 13 years old, enjoying the hell out of it. But that Florida team was great. That is one that they rematched in the Sugar Bowl and lost. FSU lost to. But that game was just, I mean, it was a vicious game. That was the after the whistle game where FSU just kept popping them after the whistle, or the echo of the whistle, as Mickey likes to say. Just a great football game. And I was a kid, and it's probably, hell, it may be my favorite football game I've ever been to in person. I've watched games on TV I probably enjoyed more, pro games and such. Mm-hmm. But that game is one of those that even 25 years later, I still remember how much I enjoyed it in the moment.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see. Is this the last question? This is the last question. It's a good one. John Bone 546 wants to know. It's a good one to end on. Win predictions at the start of summer camp versus win predictions now.
I'm still living that 6-6 life. For the things I feel much better about, which there are several from camp season, there are still things that I'm still uncomfortable with or I don't feel particularly good about. Linebackers, obviously, one of those. There's depth concerns in a lot of places. I worry about the physicality situation opening up with Notre Dame. I need to see some of the product on the field, and I'm not just talking game one. I'm talking probably the first 2-3 games before I'm going to gravitate one way or the other off of 6-6.
There was a point in camp, maybe a weekend, 10 days in, where I was talking to Chris about do you think 4 wins? Like I asked him what was more likely, 4 wins or 7.
Tuesday practice where the number 3 and number 4 quarterbacks decided to give the ball away like free candy on Halloween
was the day after that where it was, So there was a point in camp where that seemed realistic to me, like 4 to 6 wins seemed like the sweet spot. I think now after seeing them actually show some improvement in various areas throughout camp, and that's been cool to see, like actual growth right in front of your eyes. That has been cool. Still like 5 wins to 7 wins kind of feels like the sweet spot still. So I'll land in the middle at 6. I think I've talked myself into them somehow getting to a bowl game at this point. I do believe in Mike Norvell and this coaching staff. I think very highly of them. I think they'll be able to scheme their way to that extra game and find a way to get bowl eligible. 6 wins for me. Yeah,
I was 6-6 heading in to camp. Now maybe I think that 5 wins is more likely than 7. Having seen camp play out, seeing how the QBs are being treated, hearing about the offensive line and linebackers, I think 6-6 would be a very solid season for Mike Norvell in this team.
I agree. I still think that, and hopefully the fan base understands like that would be an achievement, a good achievement to feel good about, and would be good for the program long term if you can get there. Hopefully they understand that going into the season that 6-6 would be significant.
How much, just an add-on to that to a degree, and with the season kicking off as a whole, how much of last year nationally is tough to include in viewing this year?
A lot.
Usually you go into a preseason, you're like, man, they return, for example, Notre Dame returns, I think, 9 starters. think it's 3 offense, 6 defense. Usually you'd be like, oh, that team's going to take a major step back. But we know offensively they lost several offensive linemen. They're always going to have a next guy up on the O-line, it feels like. We talked about the receiver group and some of what's going on there. Defensively, they still return a lot. So, I still think Notre Dame's going to be really good, and they were very, very good last year. A lot of people think they can go undefeated in regular season this year. I think Phil Steele, in fact, predicted that they go undefeated in regular season. FSU was miserable defensively last year. Will they be miserable defensively this year? I don't think so. I obviously don't think they're improving drastically since I didn't take top 50 defense by or Sonoma by. But it's just I'm very interested going into week 1 what teams are going to look like, what we think they're going to look like, and what teams are going to be like, oh, holy hell, what is this? Good or bad.
Chris asked himself a question, answered it, and then Byerson owned himself a question in the middle.
I included the Byerson in it.
And
shake your head.
And that's what makes us great here on the bench. We have emptied the mailbag. Thank you guys for submitting your questions. If you're wondering where we get the questions, I put up a thread the night before on Noles 24/7 message board. We open up the mailbag to any questions. You just got to submit them on the site, and we answer them live on the show. So thank you for tuning in. We will be back later this week. I'll sit down with Zach Blostein for a recruiting preview of this week. I think we're going to sit down on Wednesday morning and tape that. And then I go on not vacation. I'm going to a wedding on Thursday in Chicago. So we'll see if I'm back on Friday, but if not, Chris and Brendan will take it away with the game preview. So thank you for listening to On the Bench. We will see you guys soon. All right. So that's it. We got the live broadcast still going. Yeah, we're still live.
Chris, don't say
so
anything.
Now, Brendan, if I
behave ourselves, not just me, thank you.
If I hit end, I'm gonna be able to go get the audio.
Yeah, you should. I've never done a live one before. See, Josh is setting this up. I want everyone who's watching. There's 100 people watching this.
No.